Hello, everyone, and thanks once again for tuning in and watching our Talking Points. Now, as you know, each episode we have 10 minutes asking 5 questions for one guest who is an expert in their respective field. And today we are once again going to be talking about trusts and, in particular, the difference between various types of trust. So I'd like to welcome Annemarie Schutte, the MD of Treasury Trust Services. So thanks so much for joining us today, Annemarie.
Hi, Damien. Thank you for having me.
Wonderful. Now, Annemarie, can you just tell us what are the different kinds of trust that one can get? Because obviously each one has a very different role in modern day society.
So basically, Damien, there are three sources of a trust. The first one is by agreement, and that will typically be your living discretionary trust. The one will be by a last will and testament. That is your testamentary trusts. And then the one by court order. We're not really going to talk about that, but that will typically be your road accident fund trusts.
Now, Annemarie, the two that you mentioned now is the testamentary trust and the living trust. So between those, what are the differences between them and how do they work?
So with the testamentary trust, Damien, as I mentioned, they are created in terms of a last will and testament. So the main purpose of a testamentary trust is for the testator or the testatrix, and that is the person that made the will, to bequeath assets to minor children. Now, I've also previously mentioned that in terms of South African law, a minor child cannot inherit in its own name. So if the parents would like to bequeath, let's say, a property to their minor children, and on death, the children are still minors, then typically if a trust is not already created or if there's not provision made for a testamentary trust, the entire estate, or at least that property, will have to be liquidated and the funds will then have to be paid into the guardian's fund. With discretionary or the living trust, and that is actually the trust that we prefer over the testamentary trust. That is created in terms of a trust deed. So the founder, who will be our client, will create the trust while he's still alive. So the trustees, we will act as the independent trustee, and then the founder will sign a trust deed with specific terms and with specific beneficiaries. Now, you can include your minor beneficiaries in your discretionary trust as well. In that way, you can transfer that property that you would have bequeathed to them and to your living trust while you are alive. So the same end goal, but definitely a lot more cost effective. And that might also mean the difference between having a property for the minor children and losing it because you need to pay all the other costs first.
Now, Annemarie, obviously with COVID being quite a big thing still at the moment, 1 year on, a lot of people might be very cautious about, where they're spending money and if they need to be paying the independent trustee or whatever it may be. Now, in the instance where somebody has a trust, but for a period of time they want to say, look, let me, put this on ice and I don't want to be paying it for now. What are the options that can be, given to these potential people?
Yes, Damien, that's definitely a concern that we get quite frequently. Now, unfortunately, here and there, we do have clients that have not utilized their structures as they initially intended to. So for those clients, there's definitely an option to make the trust dormant. Now, in order to make the trust dormant, we basically just need proof that there's no assets or liabilities held in the trust. The trustees may close the bank account, and then the trustees can declare the trust dormant. The clients still have to file no tax returns, however. So it's very important to note that. But at least the clients will save a bit on bank fees and also on the trustees' fees. They can also activate the trust as soon as they are ready to proceed to transfer assets into the trust. So basically, the client just needs to notify us. We do resolution to reopen the bank account, and then the trust will be active again.
Fantastic, Annemarie. And now in the Wealth Masters webinars, for those who have watched it before, we often talk about the inter vivos or the discretionary trust that you've mentioned earlier. Why is this the preferred trust for our members?
All right, Damien. So I've mentioned this a couple of times, and I think in our previous discussions too, but it's very, very important to note these benefits. So with this living trust, as I've previously mentioned, there are death costs involved. Now, you want to eradicate your estate while you are alive. Since the assets held in trust will not form part of your deceased estate, and that will also influence all the death costs. In other words, we're looking at executors' fees and all the taxes that needs to be paid, and that includes capital gains tax and estate duty. All of that will be influenced by the value of the deceased estate. Now, if those assets are in trust, it's also ring-fenced against your personal creditors, which is another huge benefit. We also have income tax splitting, or actually also for capital gains tax, where the trustees can decide where the taxes will be payable, either in trust or it may be distributed to one of the beneficiaries. So that will also reduce or eliminate taxes, another huge benefit. As I mentioned previously, when it comes to minor children, the assets must either be in a testamentary trust or in a living trust. Now, another benefit of the living trust will be where the trustees are able to amend the trust deed. Now, with the testamentary trust, it's really difficult to challenge any of the terms set out by the testator or the testatrix because they have the freedom of testation. So they can basically set out terms whatever they decide. Now, with the discretionary trust, it's left at the trustees' sole discretion as to who will get what benefit, if any. So it also makes it a bit more flexible for future generations to continue to build the wealth previously created.
Now, Annemarie, you've spoken about all the good things and all the benefits of a trust, but I think a lot of people might be thinking the scary part of this is actually setting it up and going through that whole process and the admin involved. So can you just give us a little bit of an outline of what is needed or what is the process to go through to set up a trust in South Africa?
Yes, Damien. So firstly, you need to get in touch with us at services@wealthmastersclub.com. From there on, you will be referred to the correct people. You will basically have to complete a form after you've had a consultation with us. We will draft all the documents, send it through to you for signature. We send all the original documents to the master for registration. After registration, we also provide you with the further next steps and the documentation, like to open the bank account, which will be the first step after registration at the master's office, and then also the tax registration, where one of our other service providers will come into play, where they will attend to the actual registration with SARS, and the clients don't have to go and stand at a branch for this registration.
Amazing, Annemarie, you make it sound so simple.
It is, Damien.
And now the final question that I have, because our time has just run out, do we have or do you set up trusts only in South Africa or do you focus globally?
Damien, we do focus globally. We do have a Mauritian service provider that will set up a Mauritian trusts for our clients if they are looking at that option. So once again, get in touch with services@wealthmastersclub.com just to connect you with the right people to set up a Mauritian trust structure as well.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for the time today, Annemarie. We always appreciate it. And thank you to everyone who tuned in today and watched our talking point. Now, as we mentioned, the Wealth Masters Club will once again be hosting a free webinar on the 10th of April, where Cook Sienna's team will be sharing a little bit more about trusts and how they can be used for property investment. So make sure you register. Now, to register for that, you need to visit www.wealthmastersclub.com and follow the link to book your webinar spot. Thank you to everyone, and we'll see you again next time. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye-bye.